Greetings, fellow YouTuber. My name is Tim. Greetings, fellow YouTuber. My name is Tim. Welcome once again to one of the best reasons to actually drink on St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, every time that I say something intelligent, you take a drink. You'll be straight all night. This is GainerWorld Live. My name is Tim Gainer. Thank you so much for joining me. I certainly do appreciate it. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you if you are inclined to celebrate such a thing. Here in the great city of Chicago, as well as throughout other parts of the United States, and of course over in Europe as well, they do celebrate the holiday of, pardon me, St. Patrick. Yeah, if you are inclined to celebrate something like this, I don't. But if you are so inclined, happy St. Patrick's Day. Please be careful out there. Don't drink and drive. And if you don't drink, don't drink. I don't go out on St. Patrick's Day. I just refuse to. And the reason that I refuse to, very simply, is because of the fact that it's one of the two, how can I say this? This is one of the two official, what I call amateur nights. One of them being St. Patrick's Day, of course, the other one being New Year's Eve. So, yeah, you know, and for some reason, people feel that they're morally obligated to drink on St. Patrick's Day. You know, okay, yeah, there, I said it. But if you don't, you don't have to, okay? If you're just into celebrating holidays, you know, go out with your friends, have a nice time. But, yeah, don't worry about anything else. You know, it's a Friday night. It's a Friday night at St. Patrick's Day. How many drunk people are going to be on the streets tonight? I'm glad I'm not on the streets, okay? It's just as simple as that. If you are new to our show, as I'm sure you are, or maybe you're not, maybe you are a seasoned veteran, at which point I can only ask the question, why? What is the matter with you? To which point I can simply say, well, thank you for being here. We certainly appreciate it. If you are new, though, we welcome you. We thank you very much for being here. And you'll notice that there's this little blip right there, right down there. You see that little blip where it's got my name on it? Yeah. What that is our chat. If you're watching this live, don't worry about what's going on over there. It's just a bunch of words. Don't worry about it. But if for some reason you're watching the replay, you didn't miss anything over there. It's all right here. It's all where it's happening. So don't worry about a thing. We'll more than gladly acknowledge the fact that you're talking to us in the chat this evening. And we won't insult you much. But we do have a good time, and the people that are in the chat room, we always have a great time talking amongst ourselves and just letting our hair down. That's what this show is all about. This show is about people getting together and just relaxing and having a good time and talking amongst each other and talking about things that are going on in the news and maybe playing an occasional song on the guitar. It's all very harmless. And none of it requires any humor or talent or anything like that. So if that's what you're looking for, just click someplace else. I'm telling you, it's the only thing that you can do. But anyway, so yeah, it's been an interesting week. Of course, as always, we remind you, along with everything else that's going on in our lives, we remind you that right after this show, of course, we invite you to go to another website. Yes, we actually want you to go to another website after this show is over. And we ask you to go to Hugs 24/7 Radio. Hugs at WRGG.com. HUGSATWRGG.com. Spell it out. The reason we ask you to go there is because right after the show, our pal Cyrus Gray is going to run down the Hugs Top 10 Countdown. And what that is Hugs actually has a website, or not just a website, but they have a chart. We have a top 200 chart of the 200 best songs from unsigned independent artists from around the world, across the globe, if you will. And we ask you to please just go check it out. And he does a great job. The Hugs Top 10 Countdown, and also the premiere of Patty B, who will be on the Shockwave immediately following that. So the Hugs Shockwave and the Hugs Top 10 Countdown. That's all going to be taking place right after this, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. Hugs 24/7 Radio, HUGSATWRGG.com is where you can find that. And you can tune in and you can have all kinds of great fun listening to some of the best unsigned independent artists from around the world. Not just down the street, but around the world. I have to make the hand gestures to be grand. Around the world. It is YouTube. You need a visual picture for a radio show. Around the world. Don't ask. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, it's been an interesting week. And I did do something that I promised I was going to do last week that we'll get into in just a second. Simply because I've come to the conclusion that a lot of, well, let's face it, my audience has become perverted. Yes, fellow YouTuber, if you are a regular follower of this show, you have become quite the deathologist, as it were. But first, let's get into the major reason that people tune in the first thing in the morning to find out why we do this. I don't know. I worry about y'all sometimes. I swear to God, I do. It has been one of those weeks, and yeah, let's just get into it. Let's check the Deadpool, shall we? Let's just get into it right here. You may not know this face. You may not even know the name associated with it. But you have heard his music. Bobby Caldwell. He was a very well-known R&B singer and songwriter. Gee, Tim, I've never heard the name Bobby Caldwell. You have heard his music. He had a major hit in 1978 with a track called What You Won't Do for Love, and had a style that was just generations of artists and listeners. Unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 71 on Wednesday, according to his wife. Mary Caldwell told the Associated Press that he died in her arms at their home in Great Meadows, New Jersey on Tuesday after a long illness. You know this song, What You Won't Do for Love, and I apologize for not being able to play it, but I can't for two reasons. Number one, I can't just put music on this particular show, and number two, it's YouTube, and I don't want to get hit with the royalties. But it was a great song. It went to number 9 in the Billboard Hot 100. Went to number 6 on what was then called the Hot Selling Soul Singles charts for Billboard. And became a career-defining hit for Bobby. It was covered by so many artists. Boyz II Men, Michael Bolton. It was sampled by Tupac on his song. It was sampled by Tupac on his song, Do for Love. Other people sampled it. Notorious B.I.G., Common, Lil Nas X, Chance the Rapper. Everybody took a piece of this song. It is just so incredibly well known. There's all kinds of stories that are going on right now on social media. Listeners being surprised to learn that he was... there were listeners being surprised to learn that this guy was white. Hey, what are you going to do? He appeared only in silhouette on the self-titled debut solo album that this single appeared on. Questlove said on Instagram, "Thank you for your voice and gift, Bobby." Hashtag Bobby Caldwell, it says here. Caldwell was the closing chapter in a generation in which record execs wanted to hide faces on album covers so perhaps maybe their artist could have a chance. Ouch, Quest. Wow. Be that as it may, though. Chance the Rapper shared a screenshot on Instagram of a message exchange he had with him last year when he asked to use his music. And Bobby wrote back very sweetly, "I'll be honored if you sample my song. You're such an inspiration to me and so many others," according to Chance. He said in a post that he'd never been thanked for sampling a song before and has not felt broken like this in a stranger's passing in a long time. He'd worked right up until his death. He came across all kinds of other... he cut all kinds of other albums, but he never came close to that track, "What You Won't Do for Love." He released several other albums. The one we just showed you a minute ago, "Cat in the Hat." He appeared, and that was his trademark, a fedora. You know, not so much like Sinatra, but you know, he had his own little thing. He also had an album in 1982, "Carry On," in which he was his own producer and played all the instruments. His song "Open Your Eyes" from Cat in the Hat was covered by John Legend. It was sampled by Common on a single he released in 2000 and actually garnered him a Grammy nomination, a track called "The Light." And in the 90s, Bobby just kind of found his niche and started doing the American standards. Started doing all those tracks that, you know, Nat King Cole and Frank Sinatra used to do. So yeah, unfortunately, Bobby Caldwell, a very, very, very talented guy. He's survived by his wife of 19 years, Mary, daughters Lauren and Tessa, and his stepdaughter Katie. So yeah, kind of a sad thing there. I love that song. I really did love that song. It's like one of the few jazz songs that you can listen to that you can actually relate to. You know, not having to look like, you know, "Oh yes, I understand the cadence behind this one because of the incandescent on concerto." Shut up. Do you like the song or not? Another passing this week. And this one is kind of tragic. It's as much of... there's a tragedy within a tragedy on this one. But one of the really great sessions drummers in rock and roll history with a very, very troubled story, Jim Gordon. He played with everybody. Very famous past. He co-wrote Layla for Derek and the Dominoes, played drums on that with them, played on the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds. I mean, you can just go on and on about the history that this guy had. He's known for sharing a songwriting credit on Layla with Eric Clapton. He was the guy that he's credited with the song's the piano section near the end. Although Bobby Whitlock, who was also in Derek and the Dominoes, has since claimed that Gordon had plagiarized that part from his ex-girlfriend Rita Coolidge at the time. And, well, of course, Rita also accused him of physical abuse. So, and that's really... You need to know. You need to know this guy's. You need to know this guy's history. The good part was that he was just an amazing drummer. He played for everybody. Who didn't he play for? He played for John Lennon, Cher, The Byrds, Jackson Browne, Joan Baez, Alice Cooper, Tom Waits, Neil Diamond. There's a picture of him right here where he was playing with George Harrison during the All Things Must Pass album. And just, who didn't he play with? He played with Yoko Ono, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Mel Torme. He can be heard on Carly Simon's You're So Vain. You can be hearing him, if you remember a track from 1970, Mason Williams, The Classical Gas. Terrific instrumental single. He played the drums on that. He played on Glenn Campbell's Gentle on My Mind. He was literally ranked number 59 on Rolling Stone's list of 100 greatest drummers of all time. He was just so incredible. He played with Frank Zappa. Ricky Don't Lose My Number from Steely Dan. You hear the drums from Jim Gordon on that one. One of the things that that if you want to know what Jim Gordon was all about as a drummer, you might remember Harry Nilsson's album, Nilsson Schmilsson, from 1971. There's a track on there called Jump Into the Fire that has this incredibly organizingly chaotic drum solo. That's Jim Gordon. That's how incredible this guy was. He was so revered. The great Hal Blaine said once in an interview that if he couldn't make it to a session, he would automatically recommend Jim Gordon. That's how good he was. That's how good he was, that other storied sessions drummers would go, I can't make it to the session, but call Jim Gordon. He was just that good. And of course, like I said, during the recordings of All Things Must Pass, along with Bobby Whitlock and Carl Rattle, Eric Clapton, they all got together and they formed Derek and the Dominoes. We all know what happened there. They only recorded one album, but Lord, what for an album. They recorded the track Layla, and the story goes that Jim Gordon for years had not been credited, but then later on in his life, he was credited with writing the piano solo at the end of that. So yeah, it's he was a terrific drummer. But unfortunately, how can I put this politely? Jim had his demons. I'm going to read this straight out of Rolling Stone, where we got this story. By the mid-'70s, Jim was having trouble with addiction. He told Rolling Stone in 1985, I guess I was an alcoholic. Before I was drinking every night, I wasn't getting up in the morning for a drink. I would put a needle in my arm. When I stopped taking heroin, I began to drink all day. Then he started hearing voices in his head. By the late 70s, his mother urged him to get help, and he checked himself into a psychiatric hospital where he told doctors his mom was the only friend he had. There's a red flag for you. They're all going to laugh at you. I shouldn't do that. This is a really strange story. Jim went on to say, quote, he used to talk to me about hearing voices. This is from Bobby Whitlock telling Rolling Stone in 2013. He used to talk to me about hearing voices, but I told him that it was his consciousness speaking to him. He said it was somebody else. Eventually, he never stopped or even lightened up on his drug or alcohol intake. And the end result was, unfortunately, the destruction of his family. Of course, because of his mental state, his standing in the music industry deteriorated. He took a dozen voluntary trips to psychiatric hospital, but it all came to a head in 1983. Unfortunately, Jim Gordon murdered his mother with a hammer and a butcher knife. and he was sentenced to 16 years to life in prison. He had told Rolling Stone in 1985, "I had no interest in killing my mother. I wanted to stay away from her. I had no choice. It was so matter of fact. I was like being guided like a zombie. She wanted me to kill her, and good riddance to her." A very, very sad end. He died in prison. He died in a psychiatric hospital. He had been eligible for parole for decades. Never attended the hearings. Never talked to lawyers. Never did anything. He just sat in a psychiatric ward. A parole board just deemed that he was an unreasonable risk to the threat to public safety. So, yeah, it's really sad, a really sad end to a really, really brilliant human being. And unfortunately, he is gone now, or that is to say that he is at peace, which probably is a really good thing in Jim Gordon's case. So, yeah, he's gone, and that'll do it. I think. Is that it? Yeah, that'll do it. I gotta check my notes here. That'll do it for the Deadpool report. Let's get out of here. Let's just get out of here. You know, it helps if you usually hit the right. Why don't you hit the right thing, Tim? See, this is what happens when you... This is what happens when you produce your own show. Hey, they can't all be gems, okay? They can't all be gems. We want them to be, but unfortunately, that's just not the way that it can be sometimes. Now, related to that, and also in line, I promised last week that I was going to do this because I'd found this particular website. And there are people, I will openly admit, there are people that, I don't know how, there are people that are obsessed with death. I am not one of them, to be honest with you. I know that we open the show every week with the Deadpool report, but that's only just to pay tribute to entertainers that have gone before us. And that's really the only reason why. I don't actively seek these things out. People actually, there's times that people actually send them to me that I don't know about these. But apparently this is starting to turn into a hobby with folks. I was watching a YouTube video today. Just today. People talking about how creepy boomers are. You know what? I'm a boomer. And I say it proudly. I'm 66 years old as of time of this show, this recording. And I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. I have seen things that you have not seen. I understand things that you don't understand. And you can be creeped out by me all that you want. The fact remains that I know it. But, hey. Noreen Henry has popped into the chat this evening. Hello, Noreen. It's always good to see you because we all know it's coming. Yeah, it is coming. The end is coming. The end is nigh. But there are people that have become, as I've heard one YouTuber put it, death enthusiasts, or as I like to call them, deathologists. And people have really turned this into a bit of a practice, a bit of a hobby. And somebody a couple of weeks ago told me about a website that the minute I heard this, I just kind of went, huh? Really? There are people that actually are now placing bets and are compiling lists of entertainers and people in prominent places that are going to die soon. People that you play. Now, I've come back here. I've had a list on this show. In fact, let me pull it up here as long as I'm thinking about it. And really the only reason that I brought this up was because of the fact that people are just like so incredibly fascinated with this. This is the aging musician still with us in 2023. Now, there's a lot of people that are still on this list. You know, you see Pete Townsend on there at 77. Peter Cetera at 78. Of course, we see Paul and Ringo on there. You know, and I thought to myself, okay, you know, people are into this kind of thing. You know, I mean, because a lot of my audience, I mean, perhaps including you, we're all boomers. We're all of that age. We're all of that ilk. But there's really now, there really is now a website in the UK that people actually go to keep up on all things celebrity death related. And that being said, I give you the death list. This is the Death List 2023 on deathlist. I believe it is deathlist.com, deathlist.net. So they have the death list. It's a list of 50 celebrities chosen by what's called the Death List Committee. How do you campaign for that kind of job? That's what I want to know. Before the commencement of the year, for the fact that they may die during this year. The rules of the death list are as follows. Candidates must be famous enough such that their death is confidently expected to be reported by at least the UK media, because this is a UK site. Candidates cannot be famous solely for the fact that they're likely to die immediately, and only 25 candidates can reappear from the previous year's list. So, you know, there's a criteria, which I guess is helpful. I don't know. As of so far this year, in death list lore, already 2 of the 50 have died, and we're only into March. Those 2 are Burt Bacharach and President Musharraf of Pakistan. So, without any further, and I'm not going to read off the entire top 50. That's just stupid. Not to mention beastly morbid. But we'll read off the top 10. So if you are into this kind of thing, and again, I don't make a practice of this. I don't want to make a practice of this. But for those of you keeping score at home, these are, according to the deathlist.net, the top 10 people that you can bank on that may die in 2023. Here we go. Number 10, Mel Brooks. He's 97. You don't see him in public that often these days. So, he's possibility. Number 9, Harry Belafonte. Daylight may come. He may go home. According to the deathlist.net. And their top 10 of people that may die in 2023. Now you see why I'm beginning to think this is a little morbid. Number 8, and you don't think about people like this, but you know they're famous, so I guess they can be included in the list. Number 8, Dick Cheney. I go for I go for the celebrities. I go for the sports figures. Apparently the folks in the UK, they go for their political figures as well. Dick Cheney, who is 82, is number 8 on the death list 2023. I can't believe I'm reading this. Number 7 on the top 10 list, on the top 10 death list. People that may die in 2023. Number 7, Tony Bennett. Which makes sense. I mean, Tony, he retired a couple of years ago. Noreen is saying in the chat, Harry will live forever. Dick can go at any time. I don't know if that's a political statement or what that may be, but I'm not sure. Number 6, and I'm thinking that this is a pretty sure bet given the course of what's been going on with him, the course of the last several days, at least the last week. At 99, number 6 on the top 10 2023 death list is Jimmy Carter. But you know what? I get the feeling somehow that Jimmy is just going to mess with all of us. And he's going to stick around for about another 8-9 months just to cheese everybody off. Jimmy Carter, let's face it, the boy is a badass. If you have followed his history post-presidency, the boy is a badass. And he'll go when he's good and damn ready to go. Number 5 on the 2023 death list, the top 10. Number 5 is Nigel Starmer Smith. Now, those of you in the UK watching this show will know who this is. I personally, as a ignorant Yank who knows absolutely nothing about rugby, knows nothing about this man other than the fact that he is a rugby commentator. And he is 79 years old. So, who knows? But, again, this is a UK site. Who am I to say what's right or wrong? And moving on with what I was saying earlier, you know, when we do the Deadpool report, we talk about people in show business. We talk about, you know, entertainers, musicians, actors, things like that. At number 5 on the death list, we do not talk about Alan Greenspan. Why in the name of God do you worry about Alan Greenspan? Other than the fact that people think that the United States economy will collapse if we do not have the knowledge and guidance of Alan Greenspan. Number 3 on the top 10 2023 death list, as predicted by our friends at deathlist.net over there in the UK, across the pond. Number 3, and again, this is a pretty good bet, is Bob Barker. Bob Barker is 100 years old. I'm pretty sure we're going to lose Bob Barker probably this year. But before we do, be sure to have your pet spayed or neutered. Number 2 on the 2023 death list. Pretty good bet. And he's going to cut it this year. Henry Kissinger. I don't sit up at night thinking about Henry Kissinger. Do you sit up at night thinking about Henry Kissinger? I hope you don't stay up at night thinking about Henry Kissinger. If you do stay up at night thinking about Henry Kissinger, you are a sad, lonely individual who needs assistance. I'm just saying. Which brings us to the number 1 best bet that he will not survive 2023, according to the deathlist.net. Noreen just scared the heck out of me by saying yes, she does stay up late at night thinking about Henry Kissinger. Noreen, there's an 800 number that you can call. The number one pick on the 2023 Death List from deathlist.net is Dick Van Dyke. Okay, now come on. Wasn't he just on The Masked Singer? And everybody was talking about how great he looked? I mean, granted, the guy is 98. Okay? I get it. But he still works out every day. He still makes public appearances. You know. Who's to say? Who is to say? So anyway, there you have it. Update your cards now. And yeah. The top 10 on the death list. I don't know why, people have such a fascination with this. Noreen said we're all coming. Noreen's like, no. One never knows, do one. I'm just saying. Update your scorecards now. We have now got websites of people counting down days that other celebrities die. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Let's take a break. We'll come back, and then a surprise that you didn't know you needed. But you do. We talked about one last week. We're going to talk about another one this week. Get ready for the reunion you thought would never happen. We'll talk about that in a second.
I'm Nick Mason of Pink Floyd, and March 2023 marks the 50th anniversary since the release of our album, The Dark Side of the Moon. Pink Floyd has had a history of collaborating with up-and-coming filmmakers since our early days. In many cases, the visuals that accompany the songs have become synonymous with the music itself. Which is why we would like to invite animators of all styles to enter a competition to create a music video for any song on the album. The band would like to give an opportunity to all, students or established animators, a chance to innovate and present a fresh visual interpretation to the music on the album. There are prizes for the best works, and there's a deadline for submission by the end of November 2023. The competition will be judged by a renowned panel from the worlds of film, animation, and music. And we look forward to seeing your submissions and celebrating with us 50 years of Dark Side of the Moon. Good luck. And by the way, to enter your film, please read the terms and conditions carefully, or your submission will not be accepted.
Don't delay. Do it today. If you are a creator, a graphic designer, an animator, whatever the case may be, this is something that's really different. Really different indeed. Being able to collaborate with Pink Floyd during their 50th anniversary celebration of Dark Side of the Moon. If you don't know the album, where have you been? It's simply probably one of the greatest selling albums of all time. And if you haven't heard it, well, welcome back out of the cave. You've missed a lot. So yeah, go to pinkfloyd.com/competition and find out about that. And yeah, who knows? You might have a special submission working with David Gilmour and Nick Mason and Roger Waters. How cool would that be? I love all of the artwork that has to do with Pink Floyd. I love all of it, I have to tell you. Everything from like the one that you saw that had to do with checking the tote board. Curtis McKinnock popping in. Curtis, how you doing? Taking a quick pass through. Hey, you Tim. Hey, you Curtis. Taking a quick pass through. Sit down. Drop what you're doing. Set a spell. What can it hurt? I know, a lot, but do it anyway. You're a tough guy. You can tough it out. Not a problem. Anyway, so yeah, go ahead and do that. pinkfloyd.com/competition to get involved with that competition. Last week, we told you about the reunion that people thought would never happen. We told you about the reunion that you didn't know you needed. But it is coming true. It is coming to light. Last week, we talked about the reunion of Mr. Big. Oh, can you stand it? Deep inside, I hope you feel it too. Feel it all together now. It on a line of just to be the next to be with you. Yes, you heard it here first. Mr. Big getting back together for a tour this summer. Everybody's singing along. You gotta love it. Mr. Big getting back together after all those years. And you thought to yourself, oh, hey, Gainer, that's the best news I've heard in a long time. How can you possibly top news like that? Well, I hope you're sitting down, fellow YouTuber. I hope with all my heart that you are going to be able to take the news that I'm about to give you. The news that none of us ever thought would ever happen again. The news that in this troubled times we need, and you didn't know that we needed until now. Fellow YouTuber, if you thought Mr. Big getting back together was big, no pun intended, are you ready for the return of... Here we come. It's true! Yes! Believe it! And 3 of them are dead! We're too busy singing to put anybody down. Yes, it's true, fellow YouTuber. Believe it or not, the Monkees are returning to Access TV as part of the new Friday Retro Night block. Just when you thought it was safe to go back to the old reruns, oh no! Yes, Access is going to air all 58 episodes of The Monkees, distributed by Sony Pictures Television. You know about them. I don't need to tell you the story about the Monkees. But Mickey Dolenz, who, by the way, if this isn't enough, is going out on tour himself this summer. Yes, you heard it here first. He said the Monkees sitcom was truly ahead of its time and paved the way for countless series and bands throughout the decades and still is. I'm so pleased that Access TV is featuring it on their Retro Night lineup. I hope it will continue to inspire and entertain new generations of viewers for years to come. So, in case you need more information, and indeed, how could you not? I can see it in your eyes. The Retro Night block was going to kick off with the very, very best of the 80s on Access. Followed at, that's 8 o'clock Eastern. That's followed by the Monkees at 8:30, and the block ends with nothing but trailers flashbacks as part of their new Retro Night lineup. They're going to be compiling everything we love from 3 of pop culture's most definitive decades, according to Katie Darrell, executive producer and VP of programming at Access TV. Yes, indeed. The 60s, 70s, 80s were packed with iconic music, groundbreaking movies, legendary series, timeless fashion, and so much more, with each era leaving an indelible mark on entertainment that remains to this day. Whether you lived through it or wish you had, this block is the perfect chance for your intergenerational audience to fall in love with these decades all over again. And we invite viewers of all ages to join us in the fun as we take the ultimate trip down memory lane. So that's what this is all about. Yes, I know you cannot stand it, and indeed, why should you? There's also going to be the very best of the 80s, featuring a rotating panel of celebrity guests who break down the dedicated top movies, sitcoms, and game shows. People like Todd Bridges, Tracy Gold, and Susan Olsen and Barry Williams will be in on that as well. But there you have it. The Monkees coming back. Can you stand it?
And people say we monkey around, but we're too busy singing to put anybody down.
Sing along, I know you want to.
I'll come and watch you sing and play. We're the young generation, and we've got something to say. Hey, we're the Monkees. You never know where we'll be found, so you better get ready.
You're going to be on Access.
We may be coming to your town.
Also, they're talking about the people that are going to be on here. I just mentioned names: Susan Olsen and Barry Williams of the Brady Bunch, Tracy Gold of Growing Pains, Todd Bridges from Different Strokes. Guess he's out on bail. Mindy Cohn from The Facts of Life and Anson Williams from Happy Days are going to make appearances along with 80s bombshells Tia Carrera, horror icon Dee Wallace, and Morgan Fairchild. Nothing but trailers flashbacks are going to show previews of memorable movies, including The Return of the Jedi, Scarface, and 16 Candles. And they have themed episodes that they'll be covering, such as 80s teen movies, 70s disaster movies, 80s action movies, and westerns from the 60s and 70s. So, yeah. Access, and even Noreen, she popped out. They're going to be competing with me. That's not hard to do. It really isn't. I don't know if you've seen my viewer list lately, but Access. They're not losing sleep over me. Let's look at it that way. And also, Curtis is saying this is going to be stuck in my head all night now. Oh, come on, Curtis. Really, buddy? How bad can it be? Come on.
Here we come.
Sing along with it.
On the street.
It'll be
The
great.
funniest looks from
You got the album and you know it.
Hey, hey, with a monkey.
And if that's not enough, Access, is that not a network? AXS. Access. AXS. Get it? It's a play on words that they do. You see, Access. Their nostalgia thing. They started the first when they first started, they were mostly like streaming concerts and stuff like that. But now they're getting into a much more of a retro thing now. I think they found out that the concert thing wasn't working for them. Although they may be doing it. I don't know. I don't watch the thing anymore. I don't watch television that much these days. I just don't want to. Too depressing. Not sure we have that up in Canada. AXS. Check it out. Check your local cable provider, my friend. If not, you and I both know of all the bootleg software that's online right now. Just to be clear, though, I'd be tuning in for Tracy Gold. Yeah, that's, I can understand that. I can understand that. You know, Susan Olsen's not looking like a whole lot these days. Let's face it. And, Mindy Cohn. But yeah, that sounds like a pretty good lineup, though, if you stop and think about it. Wouldn't be a bad idea. Wouldn't be a bad idea at all, actually. But there you have it. And yes, it is true what I told you. Actually, Mickey Dolenz is going to be going out on tour. I just heard about this morning, and I don't have all the details with me, but I can tell you that he's going to be starting on April 1st in Orlando. And he's going to be going out on tour, of course, playing the Monkees hits. But the cool part about this tour is that he's going to play the entire Headquarters album, which to me was a terrific album. I'm sorry, you can say whatever you want about the Monkees catalog. I mean, I personally can count on one hand the number of Monkees albums that I like and I listen to all the way through. Headquarters is one of them. It is up there on the top of the list. Just so many great tracks. You know, You Told Me, Randy Scouse Git, I'll Spend My Life With You. Just terrific stuff. So yeah, it would be fun to watch him do that. But then again, you stop and think, Dave, we're dead. So who knows? Who knows? Speaking of things that should be dead, hold on, let me do this. As long as we have time. Elena Kazvinsky has stopped in to say hello. Hello, Elena. Always good to see you. Glad that you're around. Always glad that you're here with us. And you came in just at the right time. Because we have time to actually do this. I want to do this song because a little bit of appreciation. Mainly due to the fact that... real quick story. I released this single 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago. And it did relatively well in the Hugs charts when Hugs actually started out. And these days, it's actually back on the charts. I don't know how this happened. I don't know why this happened. I do know that it happened, and I do know that I am extremely grateful. So I want to do this real quick. If you remember, great. If you don't, go listen to it on the Hugs charts. An empty room at 3 a.m. and I'm wondering where you've gone this time. And all I've got's this cigarette and a worn-out blinking hotel sign. But that's what I get to bare my soul to someone who don't understand that vein. I wonder if she'll ever know just how much she had known this time. I wonder if she'll ever use it solely for her own design. God, emotions can be deadly when I judged along such predetermined lines. Ah, foolish then was I, that I could never see a heart in disarray. It was all that I could say, just to wish you well, as I went through my hell when the sunrise also fell. I paced the room by 3 a.m., wondering how you'll sleep this time. Who's your latest experiment? I'm hoping that he's feeling fine. Meanwhile, my heart's drowning and all I've got is a disconnected line. Oh, foolish then was I, that I could never see a heart in disarray. It was all that I could say, yeah, just to wish you well, as I go through my hell, the sunrise also fell. I hit the road by 6 a.m., wondering if I'll sleep this time. So many dreams I've yet to go to, but no one to share with, not so much time. Well, that's what I get to bare my soul to someone who can't understand. Thanks for putting that back on the charts. Please keep listening to it. Vowave.com, VOWAVE.com. That's where you'll find the Host Top 200. Sunrise also fills on there. Please listen to it a whole bunch of times. I would very greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Kurt. You're telling me nicely done. I really appreciate it, my man. Thank you ever so much. I appreciate that. Elena says, I love that guitar. Guess what, Elena? So do I. And that means if Elena's here, the Danimal, oh yeah, he's there too. And I got to say hi to him before we get out of here at the same time. So yeah, 5 years. Thank you so much. It means knife. Noreen said it was knife. If Noreen says it's knife, by golly, that's good enough for me. This is the way that is. It's about time for us to kind of get out of here. I appreciate everybody popping in this evening. I really sincerely do. Thank you ever so much for that. Please, by all means, as I implore you every single week, please go over to Hugs 24/7 Radio, HUGSATWRGG.com. Cyrus Gray getting ready to go on the air with the Hugs Top 200 Countdown, the top 10 best unsigned independent artists from around the world. You don't want to miss that. In the meantime, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. Hope you come on back. If you're new, hey, now you see what we're up to. You know what we are. We're here every week. As for everybody else, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. Like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. In other words, if you like it, hey, you know what to do. We'll see you next week. We out. Bye.
Oklahoma.